Hello, welcome to Holly and Martin Do Road Safety. Martin and I are road safety officers for Suffolk County Council's road safety team, and hopefully we can provide you with some useful advice for life on the road. Good afternoon, Martin.
Hi, Holly.
Today we're joined by Peter Frost, Environment Strategy Officer, to discuss the importance of electric cars and find out a little bit more about why electric cars are going to be more popular in the future.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thank you for joining us. So Martin, would you like to ask the first question?
Yeah, the first question, lots of people have asked me this, is why can't we simply keep using petrol and diesel engines like we have for years?
That's a really good question. A lot of people do ask that, but there's two parts to the answer. One is on a global scale. The entire civilization of which we're a part of needs to stop burning fossil fuels because of the damage it's causing to the environment on a global scale. So that's something we need to move away from. And also on a more local scale, as petrol and diesel cars drive past you, if you're walking down the street, then you're getting a lung full of pollution and particulates and gases coming out of the exhaust pipe. That with the advent of electric cars, which are so much cleaner, there's no need to be doing that anymore. So the entire human race is moving on from burning things to power our world. We're now moving on to other ways of doing that.
What are the benefits of driving an electric vehicle versus a petrol or diesel?
You've asked the right guy now. I've been driving electric cars since 2012. They're quicker, quieter, smoother, cleaner. Overall, they're even cheaper to run. I mean, what's not to love about them? I've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people who drive electric cars. None of us want to go back to old-fashioned gas-guzzling dinosaur cars. We're going to stick with electric because they're so much nicer. And if you will try electric cars, you'll feel the same way. You won't want to go back.
Well, I have to say, Peter, I'm somebody who's still got a petrol car, and in fact, 2 petrol motorcycles as well. But I do want to change in the near future. But things I'd like to know is how different is electric driving from petrol driving?
Right, there's a number of differences. First of all, I can reassure everyone, if anyone drives an automatic car, then you'll be able to hop into an electric car and drive it just the same. It's just 2-pedal driving like in an automatic car. So it's very, very easy to get used to that. But there's other things about it as well. There's 2 other items. If you enjoy driving, then an electric car is more fun because it picks up so much quicker and smoother. When you do want to pull away from the lights or drive anywhere, it's a very smooth experience. So that's more enjoyable just to drive and less stressful. But also the batteries on electric cars are right down at the very bottom of the car, which gives them a very low center of gravity. So they handle better, they corner nicer, and they don't roll about as you drive down a twisty road. So they are great fun. I can let everyone know that if you do try one, you'll see how nice they are.
What are they like in the snow or ice for handling versus petrol or diesel?
The snow and ice is because the center of gravity of the car, again, is about halfway between the 4 wheels,
right.
As opposed to a lot of cars, especially rear-wheel drive ones, where all of the power is going in where the heaviest part of the car, which is the engine, is at the other end of the car. So they're a little bit tricky in snow and ice. When you're talking about electric cars, the spread of weight across the car is more even. So they're really, really easy to drive in snow and ice. In fact, you've got such precise control over how much power you put through the wheels with an electric car. There's no revving up and putting it in gear and dropping a clutch or anything like you get with a petrol or a diesel car. They're actually easier. I find them much, much easier to drive in inclement conditions, not just ice and snow, but just in the rain. I find them a lot easier.
Interesting, thank you, because I drive a rear-wheel drive at the moment, and it can be a bit temperamental in those kind of weather conditions. So it's definitely something that I would consider. Thank you.
So as an aside, I understand there is a Formula E electric series, which is quite exciting.
Yes, coming out to compete with Formula One, the more sort of traditional Formula One. But the nice thing about Formula E is, whereas with petrol-driven Formula One, that has to go at specific racetracks away from where everyone lives. With Formula E, because the cars themselves are quieter and the infrastructure to support the cars, you don't need to move petrol into the area. You don't need so many mechanics. they can actually have them in the centre of cities. So once the current situation is over, I actually had tickets to go to the Formula E in London this year, but obviously I wasn't able to go. So sad. I was so looking forward to it. It was going to be the last race of the season, and it was really getting a bit nail biting. So it was exciting stuff, but they had to cancel the race itself. But hopefully soon I'll be able to go. And it's actually through the streets of London, so you can see the landmarks with the racing cars going by. It's much more exciting.
Peter, I'd love to drive an electric hybrid vehicle for environmental purposes, but looking at the moment, they seem to be quite expensive. Will prices be lower in the future as they become more popular?
Yes, I think this year electric car sales, with the latest figures have just been released, they're actually up 165% compared to September of 2019. So the numbers that are selling are much higher, which means there's going to be more coming through to the used vehicle market eventually, which will make them much more affordable. And the thing a lot of people overlook, it is more expensive to buy an electric car, but the running costs on them are like buttons. It is so cheap to run. It's a couple of pounds worth of electric to top up the battery, and there's no spark plugs, there's no oil filters, there's no cam belt kit. I was talking to someone the other day whose turbo blew on their diesel car. I can guarantee the turbo will never blow on an electric car because it just hasn't got one. There's only 18 moving parts in my my little electric car's drivetrain. I don't know how many hundreds or even thousands of moving parts there are in a petrol or diesel engine, but they are so much cheaper to run. It's only once you have one that you realise that the benefits are the low running costs go some way to outweighing the dearer purchase price.
Peter, one thing I'm asked as a road safety officer is sometimes people are a little bit worried about electric vehicles in urban areas, that they won't hear them. They could be a threat to pedestrians crossing roads and cyclists. Is there anything we can do about that?
That's another one of those questions that's been coming up since day one of electric cars. And the good news is there's one thing, perhaps if I can just explain, an electric car isn't actually silent. Once it's moving along the road at any kind of pace, then the crunching of the tires on the road and the whoosh of the air over the body of the car, it does generate noise. So when it's driving down the road, you can be aware of it. Having said that, you're absolutely right. They are quieter than petrol and diesel cars. The government have actually brought out legislation. When you're driving slowly in an electric car, there isn't the noise of the engine. So you need to just let people know. What happens is they have a thing called a pedestrian warning noise. So there's a little noise that's emitted by the car. All it does is it builds the noise of the car back up to something closer to what a petrol or a diesel car would be. And the one on my car makes a nice spaceship noise. It's quite futuristic. But you can't miss it. If you're walking down the road and you hear that noise, you think, oh, wow, what's that? There's no ignoring it or not being aware of it. But it only makes that noise up to about 18, maybe 20 miles an hour. So it doesn't need to make it above that speed. Then the noise of the noise of the tires and the noise of the air whooshing over the body of the car, it generates enough noise on its own then. So it's only at sort of very low speeds it needs to make a bit more noise. And it is the law that all electric cars have to have these pedestrian warning noise. So rest assured, it won't sound like a petrol or a diesel car. It's a much nicer sound and less disturbing, but there is enough noise there to make sure people are aware of it.
Peter, what are the charging times like for electric vehicles? I know there's a lot of people that are worried, will there be enough charging points? Will the number of charging points increase over time with popularity?
Yes, in fact, at Suffolk County Council, I'm actually part of that effort to get more electric car charging infrastructure, more charge points out and about. So while you're driving your electric car all around Suffolk, you can rest assured that you're likely to find a place to plug in while you're out and about. Been speaking to someone who's also been running electric cars for a long time, and his answer when someone asks how long does it take to charge an electric car, well, he says it takes 30 seconds. It takes him 15 seconds to plug it in, and then before he drives off, it takes him 15 seconds to unplug it. But in the meantime, he's off doing other things, going about his business, and the car is sitting there charging unattended. that's a good way of looking at it, because certainly if you're fortunate enough to be able to charge the car at home, and about 60% of households can actually charge their cars at home. You just don't think about charging, you just plug it in, it just takes a few seconds, and you're topped up, ready to go when you need to. The other nice thing is, and this is something I've noticed, is over the years, batteries have got bigger, which then leads on to they will take longer to charge.
Right.
But the speed at which you can charge them while you're out and about has got faster. So we now have a thing called rapid charging, which can fire the electricity into the battery very quickly. So if you are doing a long drive, you just time your stops to get a coffee or get something to eat. You just time it with your recharging. You just do that, and by the time you're ready to go again, you're topped up.
So one thing, again, is regularly said to me, what can people who live in, say, flats or terraced houses do? Is there any, a future of, say, adapting street lighting columns so they can charge near their home, but not actually from their home?
That's a really good question as well. And I want to reassure anyone who wants to have a go with an electric car that it is possible. We're already running a pilot project in Bury St Edmunds where we've got on-road chargers. So the street lamps themselves have actually we have a road where there are flats, and there are on-road chargers built into the actual lamp posts there. Now, the other interesting thing, and as I say, is about 40% of households don't have off-road parking where they can charge at their house. So it's really important that we reassure people. The fact that you haven't got your own driveway doesn't stop you from having an electric car. I've known a lot of people with electric cars, and as we get more and more charging out there while you're out and about, and places you can charge, perhaps where the car is parked when you're going shopping, or perhaps if you're visiting a town centre, or perhaps doing a longer journey, there will be charging hubs where you can go and charge your car. So as the batteries have got larger, as I've already mentioned, the range of the cars has increased. So back in 2012, the range of an electric car was about 80 miles, which was a bit restrictive. And I can understand, although I was enthusiastic, a lot of people were slightly put off by that. But now that you get cars with 160 miles or even 200 or even 300 miles that they can do on one charge. Now, what that means is you don't have to necessarily charge every night. That's a week or maybe 2 weeks commuting for some people. So you can just charge when you're out and about, just top up. And the way people charge with an electric car is different to the way people refuel a petrol or a diesel car. With a petrol or diesel car, they tend to run the tank all the way to the bottom and then top it all the way to the top.
Yeah.
With an electric car, you do a thing called, we call it grazing, where you just top up as and when you can, because unlike what a lot of people worry about, it doesn't actually hurt the battery just to top it up a bit every now and then. So if you just top up as and when you can, you'll find that your range, and where you charge, those are things that you just don't worry about anymore.
Yeah, thank you so much, Peter. I definitely learnt some new information from a personal point of view. I imagine when future generations get older, it will just be all electric.
I know the way I look on it is in the future, they'll look back and say, what, you used to burn oil in your cars? What were you thinking of? What an inefficient way to power a car. Yeah. And I'd highly recommend all of your listeners to, if they possibly can, get an electric car or get a ride in an electric car, and you'll see how much nicer they are.
Peter, to get unbiased advice, is there a particularly good website to look at?
There's two websites I'd recommend. One is a national one called www.zap-map.com, ZapMap, if you Google it. And then that's got lots of unbiased advice all about the cars and where you can charge and all that kind of thing. That's probably one of the best resources to have a look at. But locally, Suffolk County Council is running a project called Plug in Suffolk, which is encouraging more and more chargers to be out there at car parks and community halls and places like that. So do give www.pluginsuffolk.org. If you give that a look, that has lots of information on there as well. So, yeah, good resources there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Peter. I found it really, really interesting. And thank you, Martin, as always. If you do have any questions or would like to find out more information, please check the description box or email us at suffolkroadsafe@suffolk.gov.uk. I hope you learnt something. Please share it with your friends and family, anyone you think could be interested in getting an electric or even hybrid vehicle in the future. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.